Hang on, everybody. Hey there. Let me just do a little housekeeping on tech. I'm clicking go live here. Okay. I think we're live in a couple of places at the same time. Happy Wednesday, everybody. And Jocelyn, who's on my team, will let me know if things are working with a text. And we'll get... So hang on here. Let me close a little window, a little tech moment. I think we're good, right? Hey, everybody. Actually, I'm just going to do a little... Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to know that it's working. So, happy Wednesday, everybody. It's Wednesday, March 26th, about 8:39 in the morning. I'm about 8 minutes tardy. I usually do this about 8:30 on the Pacific Coast. Not that this matters. You don't care about any of this. So, my name is Dr. Rick Tamlin, and I'm an author. I wrote a book called Play Your Bigger Game. If you know of me, that's kind of my claim for some fame over the years, and it did really well. And it's a workshop, and it's a training, and it's a team building workshop, and it's a philosophy, it's an ideology, it's a talk, it's a book, it's all the things. So I feel very blessed to have co-created that a number of years ago. And I'm a teacher and a trainer and a coach, and just came home from a conference in Texas and spoke there about animating the potential of the human spirit, right? And it hit me this morning. I went for my morning walk. I'm a meditative walker. By the way, just noticing, I'm very cash this morning. Hat, bad hair day. You don't care. Can we just really be honest? And it's not about all looking. It's about being professional. I totally get that, but it's also, we don't have to this whole perfect look thing, right? We're done. My thought this morning on my morning meditation. How many of you are, you walk? Hang on here. Let me just I want to move a little window to see if anybody can comment. By the way, if you're watching right now, you're welcome to comment or ask a question, or throw it in the chat. I think I'm on 5 different platforms at the same time. Most of them come through this amazing software called Ecamm, where I can see the chat. So, little tech training. Feel free to write a question or a comment, and I'd love to interact for these few minutes as we talk this morning, as I offer some thoughts this morning that came to me from my morning meditation, my walking meditation. My meditation, by the way, is a big conversation, right? My meditation is a conversation. I'm not a sit down and this kind of guy. I've always wanted to be, and I've always been envious of people who do that. I need to walk, and I talk out loud, and I have my earbuds in my head, in my ears, in my head, so people don't think I'm talking out loud to myself, but I am talking out loud to myself. I'm talking to God, I'm talking to Spirit, I'm talking to my dad, and on the other side, I'm talking to my mom, and then, the classic, what comes in from the conversation, because I believe in the power of conversation to design your life, right? Whether you're conversing with a person in this physical plane, or whether you're talking to the energy of the world, or whatever your version of that is, I'm a believer of the conversation. That's why life coaching is such a great model, right? It came along because we needed to talk to another human being about how our life is going. We didn't need to analyze maybe the depth and the breadth of why it's not going so great, and we didn't need to uncover all the reasons and all the things that happened to me, although life coaching can kind of look there. It's the life coaching conversation is a very therapeutic conversation, not therapy. And wanted to offer that distinction this morning. So anyway, back to what came into me this morning. I was having a moment of some dare I call it low-grade anxiety. I know many people are experiencing it. I did a group call yesterday, a training call. It was a book club call that I lead, which is really fun. But the anxiety in people right now with what's going on in the world, and what's going to happen to my world, and what's going to happen to my money, and what's going to happen to, we could look into 1,000 different pockets of one's life, right? The financial life, my rights. I don't want to get all into those details, but certainly the level of anxiety and experiencing chaos, as we know, is right through the roof, right? And, everybody's talking about how to manage it. Everybody in the self-help space is talking about it. And I think there are brilliant people out there talking about how to manage this, how to be with this, how to go through this. But it also hit me this morning that I have to remember to come back to the truth of who I am, that I'm a creative being, and that I can create anything I need along the way. What cannot be taken away from me is my creativity, right? That's not that anything's being taken away from me right now. Remains to be seen. Who knows? But currently, my creativity, and I think that's true for all of us. But the topic I really wanted to address is the low-grade anxiety that kind of kicks in from the circumstances or just from life, right? If you're a person who kind of leans towards low-grade anxiety, which I'm going to be really open, I've done the research, I've done the therapy, I've worked with a Jungian therapist for about 9 years now. I love it. I've discovered there's this sort of this early part of my life. I'm going to get a little therapy-ish here for a second. Not therapy with you, but the therapy concept, right? There's things that happened, and there's things that were said, and there's teachers that showed up in my life, and there was parenting that happened and didn't happen, as we all know. We all have that. But that low-grade anxiety, that it has sort of lived with me, right? And then it lowers, and then the circumstances of the world will get a little louder, and then it gets louder, and it's responding to something outside of me. But it also sort of lives inside of me. And I'm not proud of it. And one of the people that I love to follow, Dan Harris. Dan Harris was a news guy on, I think it was ABC. He was a pretty famous newscaster here in the United States, and he had a panic attack on the air. Like on air, he literally had what is called as like a psychic break. Like he lost his reality, and he couldn't find his words, and he wrote a book about it, and then he went off and started a whole different business life and an impact life around how to handle sort of that level of anxiety. Right? He wrote a book called The 10% Solution, I think is what it is. If you look him up, Dan Harris. But the reason why I'm bringing it up is I don't want to call it a technique, but I do want to call it a concept that was given to me many, many years ago, and I forget to do it. It's this very simple concept of, is this anxiety mine, or has it been inherited in me, or was it sort of injected into me unconsciously and not willfully from my parents or my world or my life, and it sort of got into me, kind of get into the inner DNA, right? There's the physical DNA, and then there's the psychological DNA, if you will, and it gets in there, right? And then you sort of swim in it, and you're right. And this very interesting, now I will call it a technique, the ability to remember, oh, that's not all mine. That's not mine. I inherited that. That's my mother, my father, my life, this particular thing that I created or happened in my life that I took on a level of low-grade anxiety. That's not mine. That's not mine. And this chat this morning, I think I called it, it's give it back. And the exercise I want to offer you all is to literally sit down and meditate and contemplate and decide what is not mine, right? Rachel Jane, good morning. What is not mine? Oh, I'm honored to have you here, Rachel Jane. Which, by the way, I just saw her comment there, commenting on the wisdom. Also, not a bit of a mentor. One of my mentors is Rachel Jane Groover, so it's honored to have you here, honey. But this simple idea to give it back, and to not give it back with anger and upset. It's not a give back like you did this to me, and right. It's more like I understand why you had this fear. I'm going to use my mom as an example. My mother is the dearest, sweetest. She's passed on, by the way. But actually, if she were here, she'd probably be thrilled that I'm talking about her. You know how we all like, oh, we don't want to talk about our parents in the world and the public. And I think my mom would be pretty cool with it. She'd go, yeah. And because my mom, just to, layer it, she inherited energetic stuff from her parents that was not hers. But she didn't understand the concept of giving it back. She just sort of lived from it. Right? Yeah. My mom was cool. I know Rachel Jane is commenting about my mom. My mom was, and now you got me just want me to just describe her. This is the best way to describe my mom, is the end of her life. Okay. So here's how she passed away. She first of all, she went very quickly, which she wanted to do. She told her sons, 3 boys, I will be dying quickly. You will not be taking care of me in a bed with a tube and oxygen. I'm just not doing it. She was so clear. That's what I loved about my mom. When she had clarity, she created it, right? She was one of those sort of metaphysicians who didn't understand metaphysicians, but she was clear, right? Like, this is, right? So it's a hear this in the right context. I'm only laughing because she would laugh with us, and she's thrilled. By the way, I actually have had conversations with her on the other side. I just know she's told me this is the way I wanted to go. So my mom lived in this little apartment in this beautiful community, and she was a bit of a partier, like loved to party with all the gals and the men. And in this, my dad had passed, and she had this sort of fun. She missed my dad, of course, but she was able to thrive in this last part of her life. They found her, I'm going to begin with the end. They found her outside her little apartment on her patio, sort of, on the ground, about, I don't know, a day after I guess she had passed. They don't really know the details. The details of this don't matter. The details you do want to know is she was dressed to the nines. She was one of her most sort of, dare I say, sexiest outfits as an 81-year-old. Would love to wear, and she had earrings on, and they told us there was a cigarette on the ground, and there was I think she was having a drink at the time. So she was probably out there having a smoke and having a drink, and boom, down. And ironically, we told that story at her funeral, and that's exactly how my mom would have wanted to go. So she was a lover of life. There was some shadow stuff, which I'll get to in a minute, which is the anxiety part. But I just really love my mom's clarity of this is how this is going to go down, and I use the word cute here, but this is how I'm going to go down. This is how I'm going to go out, right? I know, right, Rachel Jan? I totally get it. Just without the cigarette, I totally with you. It's probably why she went out that way. Is the cigarette, the heart? Who knows? We didn't do a biopsy. It didn't matter. We had a chuckle. The brothers were like, of course we honored my mom and miss your parents, and but the point of this whole, I digress. Rachel Jane, you're pointing me to the storyboard, which is great. So. You're giving it life by commenting on my mom. I should do a whole talk about, how to honor our mothers, because my mother is the primary energy in my life, right? And but the part that I want to get back to is she had some anxiety. My mom was an anxious soul. She would call me and worry about the stock market. She had the money news on the TV station at the time. Was MSNBC? No. CNBC, I don't know, the one that talks about money all day long. She had it on in her apartment all day long. It was like constant, and I said, Mom, you might want to turn this off. She goes, no, I need to know that I'm going to be okay. And then dear sweet, God bless her, she called her sons and said, can you all send me a little bit of money every month? I feel very anxious about money. And I said, Mom, you have plenty of money. We walked her through her account. Didn't matter. She just needed to know that we were there, which was very sweet. So we'd send her a couple $100 or whatever, all 3 of us, which was delightful. There was no animosity about that whatsoever. But my point is that anxiety, I got some of it. And, I'm going to get, I'm not a scientist. Some of you might know people who can validate this, but I've done some research. I've worked with some people all the way back to in vitro, like in uterus, right? I know I'm getting a little going out on a limb here, but that anxiety is getting passed through. And Rachel Jane, this is in your wheelhouse, right? That energy is being passed through me, umbilical cord, food, energy, and I'm in this force field of this woman who's pretty anxious. So it's happening to me right there. And then of course I get birthed into the world. That's an anxiety experience for everybody involved, they tell me. And then then I'm being brought up in a bit of this anxious space. Now I want to be really clear. I'm honoring the amazing creativity and ability that my mom and dad had to raise this incredible being. I'm talking about myself as an incredible being. We're all incredible beings. To be able to do this, here I am doing a Facebook Live with all of you on a Wednesday morning, learning the technology so it all worked out, right? But that low-grade anxiety thing, right? So back to the exercise. Let me stay focused. Is you realize you want to just give back to your parents, to a teacher, to go scan your life and go, okay, what's not mine? What's not mine? What is it that I carry energetically, psychologically, the words that how many of us start to speak the language of oh my God, I sound like my dad. Oh my God, my mom said that. As we get older, we look back and we go, oh my God, I've become them. Well, we all know this concept, but the ability to kind of catch it. And here's the key to the whole thing. You do not make them wrong. You work that out with a therapist, you work that out with a coach, you work that out in a cool workshop where you release the anger you have, if you have any. I'm sure most of us do. But then you graciously and with gratitude give it back. And my therapist and many people in my life have offered me this structure of you write them a letter, and dear mom, I know you meant well, and I know you were also scared, and because you start to have forgiveness from the understanding, and you start to have graciousness from the understanding of they were swimming in anxiety from their world, right, from their life. And, let's back it up. In the world, we all, I didn't live through this, but they were the product of, the Depression. And you talk about anxiety, and we can have food on the table. And within World War II, and, we could go through the huge, dynamic shifts of the world, right? And we might be going through another one right now. We are going through something, right? I am not going to be the fortune teller of how this is going to go, but we must be aware this big tectonic plate shift thing is going on, and we're feeling it. So that is real, but it's also let me catch myself and go, the anxiety that I'm feeling from this is not all mine. And to write a letter, and with gratitude, and the radical thing to do is to send it. Right, you literally send it, and you could send it to yourself, like in the snail mail, and then you send it, and then it comes back a week or two later, and you realize, and just to really play out the arc, to play out the story that I've actually sent the letter back. Right now, the interesting part that for me that gets activated and got animated for me when I've done this is then I want to have a conversation with my mom, right? And I have a conversation with my mom on the other side. Now, I don't know if you believe in that. I don't know whether if it just makes me feel better. I'm not even going to with if that's true or not. It just makes me feel better. And then I have this conversation with my mom, and I give it back to her. And then I ask my mom, I know we're out there on a limb here for a second. We're a little bit in that land of, talking to people on the other side, or talking to the space, or talking to the quantum field, because I believe in that stuff. I'm talking to the energetic space of my world. And then I offer my mom or my dad and say, I think you should do this too. Now, they're not in the physical plane, so, they might have missed the opportunity. But the idea that you're giving them, you're like being a workshop leader for your parents. What an interesting idea. Like if my parents were in my workshop. Karen. I know we did that, right? So that's those are my thoughts today on this Wednesday morning, and it just hit me again too. It was a reminder. It's because I could feel my own anxiety go up, and too much news, and I start to track, and then social media and the anger and the upset, and I was like, okay, calm this down. And I was reminded of this. I need to give this back. I need to give the anxiety back, not the circumstances. The circumstances in my life on this physical plane are real, right? And then, but how I respond to them, as you all know, is our choice, right? How we respond to things is our choice. That's the ultimate power of the human spirit, is we all get to choose how to respond to this. So those are my thoughts here on this Wednesday. And so what do you need to give back, right? What do you need to give back? What do you need to, and again, I want to make this fine-tune adjustment. I invite you to not, if you need to be mad, don't do that in the letter. Do that, you know what, I'm not going to be too directive. If you need to be mad in the letter, but this is actually a gratitude letter, right? This is a gratitude letter versus a reaction. You did this to me, and and that's I suggest you do that somewhere else, and then you write this letter, or have a conversation, and give it back in a gracious way, and say, this is not mine, and I give this back to you, right? So those are my thoughts. I think I've repeated myself 16 times. I hope this has been useful. I do stuff in the world to motivate, animate, activate people's lives. I'm in the leadership development space. I've been doing corporate work for years with teams, and I've even done this with a team a bit. It's sort of I'm not going to get into the exact exercise, but there's an I'll just underline it. There's an exercise to do with a team where it's called Ghost of the System. This is a whole different topic. I'm just gonna put a toe in the water. But there's either a person in the room who's not physically in the room, or there's a past thing that happened that's in the room that the team needs to actually let it go and be grateful for it and give it back. Like, we're done with that. It's like a completion kind of thing, right? So the team can get on with it because it's still reacting to something from the past. And if we don't sort of deal with stuff from the past, the future is really clouded, right? We just need to clean it up and give it back, or do something about it. Don't need to analyze it too deeply, unless we do, right? But there's the future can sometimes be designed by the past. And there's these exercises individually and with teams and organizations where you can actually kind of, dare I say, kind of cleanse the space to anew, right? Now we're ready to move forward. So I do that kind of work in the world. So related to that, there's a class happening tomorrow, and Jocelyn's going to put it in the chat. I'm doing a class tomorrow. I'm going to remember the name. I'm just going to pull up my calendar because I love creating. I do probably twice a month free classes into the world. It's really fun for me, and I have people who jump on, and I have clients who jump on, and it all in service of you moving your life forward, helping with leadership development, all these kinds of things that I just love. I love so many different topics. So tomorrow's class is called How to Design a Training That Sticks. How to design a training, and then in this case, a virtual training. But it'll also apply to live. Everybody's like, is this about live? Is this about being in a room live? Or is this about being virtual? The same concepts will apply to both, right? How do you create something that's sticky? And I'm going to tell you, it's not going to. I don't think it's going to be what you think it's going to be, right? So that's tomorrow. There's a registration link there. It's Thursday, tomorrow, March 27th, 1 p.m. Pacific time, about an hour. Will there be some Q&A time at the back end? Because I love helping leaders and coaches and trainers and speakers and authors and thought leaders and people in the personal development and leadership development space create stuff that's successful. I just love that conversation, and I love to help people with that. So that's that. And then the other announcement I want to remind you all, if you're in my world. So in April, I am doing a 2-day training. You could kind of call it a deep dive workshop online, virtual, and it's going to be on, hang on here. Oh my God, I'm getting my dates. I want to make sure I get my month right. It's April 24th and 25, and it's called the Performance Lab. It's called the Performance Lab. Jocelyn will put a link in there. $17 ticket. It's basically a dozen eggs here in California. Actually, no, the prices are going down, so something's changing. So that's a 2-day event. Just a context for that, for why you should come to that or why you shouldn't come to that. This is about you, the animator and the frother and the alivener of your work in the world. Yeah, we're going to talk about what's your thing, but we're mostly going to talk about you, the performer. And I know that word can totally trigger us. Like, I don't want to be a performer. So it's not about that language in particular, but it is about your level of energy and aliveness and dynamism and co-creativity. We're going to talk about co-creativity to bring your thing alive. Because a core belief I have is that people are hiring you who happens to have a thing or a work or a philosophy or a training or a book or an ideology that you want to get into the world. You're the voice of it. And so one of the things that I learned, and I got this many years ago when I was doing a bigger game workshop for IBM, and it went really, really well. It was like a 2-day thing, and it's a team, and by myself in front of a room of 30 people, leaders, and fantastic workshop. And at day 2, somebody raised their hand at the end and said, "Okay, what else do you got, Rick? What else do you got? We need something else from you." And my ego was flattered, my healthy ego was flattered, and of course I came up with something else and made something else up, and I'll come back and we'll do round 2, right? I learned in that moment that it was not, they bought the bigger game workshop. They wanted to rehire the person who delivered the bigger game workshop, right? So that's the part we're gonna focus on, is you, the performer, the workshop leader, the front of the room person, the speaker, all those terms that we all know. We're going to uncork that and bring you more freedom and aliveness and authenticity, an overused word, to you as you do your thing into the world. So that's 2 days in the end of April. Okay, so everybody take a big deep breath. I will leave you with one resource that I just love. So not a big thick book, by the way, really easy book. So related to what we talked about a little bit today in giving things back, I cannot underline this book enough as a resource. Probably can't see it. Jocelyn will put this in the chat. It's called Living an Examined Life, Wisdom for the Second Half of the Journey. It's by a Jungian therapist named James Hollis. What I love, it's a 21-step plan for addressing the unfinished business of your life. First of all, I love the title. I love the concept. It's a really easy read. He uncorks, if you will, our history from our younger years and frees it up in a way that I've never seen, written so beautifully, and uncorks it, and my brain kind of goes, "Oh, that makes total sense." Because you also know, by the way, when you understand what happened, then you're free from what happened, right? When you understand what happened, you're free from what happened. So there's a resource for all of you. Little book plug. I might do a call about this book in particular coming up. So I don't know. We'll see. Right. So, all right, everybody. More to come. Have a great rest of your day, and more to come. I've repeated myself now 6 times. That's what I do sometimes. Thank you for listening. I hope this has served. Remember to give back what's not yours. Just remember, energetically give back what's with gratitude, not with upset. Right? Give it back with gratitude. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your day. I'm going to push some buttons to hopefully stop this video recording in all the different places. Here we go. Bye, everybody.